But first, we start off with Disney's Investor Day, which is set to kick off any minute. The media giant is widely expected to unveil its streaming service. CEO Bob Eiger is set to take the stage at any moment. And this could be a magic moment for Disney. While the stock has been mostly range-bound over the last few years, a slew of analysts on Wall Street have been out with bullish notes in the past few weeks leading up to this event. For more on what we can expect out of Disney, Julia Boorstin is here with us on set. Julia, great to have you here in person at the NASDAQ.
Great to be here, Melissa.
Obviously, the streaming service is front and center. So what details, what do we expect to know about the streaming service when this is all said and done?
Well, I expect Bob Iger to really focus on the content on this platform. The premium brands showcasing new original shows around Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, which they've recently acquired from Fox, Pixar. All of the Disney content will be on there, including The Vault, old content, 500 movies, as many as 7,000 TV episodes from the Disney Vault. And I think that he'll be probably starting off talking about the content, and then there are the big questions. We are hoping that he will announce a price tag. There have been a lot of expectations that we'll get a price. And he said it would be less than Netflix. So that means we're looking like the $5 to $8 range, $6 to $8 range. And then also specific timing. There have been reports that it'll come out in November. He said before the end of the year, by the end of the year, October, November, would make sense in terms of getting it out before the key holiday season.
You talked to a lot of analysts. So what are analysts saying in terms of how they assess what the total market could be for this?
Well, I think there are two things here. There's the total market, and then there's also the cost. And that's how we're going to determine the value proposition here. And there's some hope that Disney CFO will give expectations for how this will all impact the company's bottom line, the investment in content, the investment also in the technology platform and what that's going to do to earnings guidance going forward. And in terms of the overall market, a lot of analysts are bullish that Disney could very well reach the scale of a Netflix over the next couple of years, over the next 10 years, especially if you look at combining Disney Plus with ESPN Plus as well as Hulu, which Disney owns a majority stake in.
Julie, that's what I was just sort of asking you. Do you think Netflix, and you've covered this space for a long time, you talked to a lot of people, does Netflix have too much of a head start?
Well, I think these are really different services. Someone described it to me as Netflix is like basic cable. It's a little bit of something for everyone, for parents, for kids. If you want to get sucked into a show like House of Cards, if you're interested in documentaries, there's really something for everyone, but not as much name brand content. They have established some familiar shows, but they're not starting off with stuff that's of the name brand recognition that you have on Disney. So Disney's really a family service. And also, it's going to be must-see if you're a big Star Wars fan. They're going to have a live-action Star Wars show that's going to be so high production value. It's going to be the same value as what you would see, you know, on a movie theater, and they're going to try to suck people in who are true fans of their brands.
All right, Julia, great to see you. Thank you.
Great to
Julia
be here.
Boorstin. We'll check in with her a little bit later on as this meeting progresses. Meantime, let's trade Disney and talk about that sentiment change that we have seen in just the past couple of weeks. And Tim, I know you're a shareholder. What do you think? Is this warranted? This really dramatic change?
Look, you can make an argument. People have said, well, you know, it trades in a range from 95 to 120. What breaks us out of this range? This is what breaks us out of a range. This is arguably, you want that exciting moment. And I realize we knew this moment was coming. But if you listen to the street and if you talk to a lot of analysts, you talk to people that are along the stock, there's definitely a view that I need a hybrid approach to valuing this company. I've got the former multiple, and I'm going to take the same multiple that we start to look at even on a Netflix. So if you think that there's more than room, or there is room for more than two SVOD plays, and no question to me that there is, this is what they call the pivot that I think is a major catalyst to the stock. And again, a multiple which trades at a premium to its peer group now has another reason for trading an additional premium to that premium.
SVOD meaning streaming video on demand.
Thanks
Okay,
very much.
So cool. So I do believe that there is a room. The skinny bundle is going to have a lot of other pieces to it. Disney's going to be one of those. It's not going to be a Netflix killer. It's going to be in conjunction with that. But I don't believe that the price point's going to work.
Really?
I don't believe the 5 to 8's not going to work. It's going to be 10, or it's going to be higher than that. So I think we're assuming
because
it's lower.
how much they have to spend to make
They said
the
they'll be lower than
content,
Netflix, but Netflix already raised its prices, so I think they have some flexibility in price on that side. It is positive for them, but I still think we're stuck in that trading range. I don't think that this is enough to break us out of that 120, and I wouldn't buy it until it does break out of that trading range.
I still need to see some proof that their content strategy is going to be strong. Quite frankly, I'm just not convinced at this point. I'd much rather be in Netflix. I think it's a much better play when it comes to streaming. There's certainly a lot of potential, obviously, with Disney. They do have a good legacy library of content, but I'm just really concerned that the new content isn't going to
But we don't
overwhelm
know.
people.
We don't know necessarily. I mean, Netflix right now is in the business. It makes its content as well as it buys its content. Disney has a library, so that's akin to the Netflix acquisition of content. Disney has its own studio, so it also makes its content. So why are you so skeptical that it won't be able to compete against Netflix when it has a proven studio with certain franchises that have proven to work, like a Star Wars?
Could I say it a little differently? I don't think anybody's content is even close to Disney's. I think their studio is the best. I think, if anything, everyone else has been licensing their old content. And if anything, the risk to Disney is that they lose that revenue stream
I don't
from
disagree.
Netflix.
I don't disagree, but we're talking about a streaming game here, and a pure play on streaming is Netflix. So when Disney tries to play streaming, it comes along with a valuation that you're not getting the growth angle that you get with Netflix. So it'll never be able to compete as far as stock price. This is a stock trading show.
So you're saying the other parts of Disney streaming business
are not
will
going to get
weigh the valuation down.
It's not going to get a growth
because the
multiple.
old media companies have a lower valuation than Netflix.
Correct.
A theme park has a lower valuation than Netflix, and that affects the overall. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think, and we've talked about this, so I'm not breaking any ground here, but I think Disney got a lifeline thrown to them back last summer when sports gambling was legalized, basically. Again, we talked about it last night. There's a $99 stock. And basically, sort of, it was failing in a lot of ways. Gambling came in. I think it saved ESPN. The stock's now 18% higher than it was, but for that move in December, which all stocks felt. You know, this stock has been going basically straight up for the last almost year. So I'm with Steve. I don't think Disney needs to compete on price with Netflix. They need to compete on an experience with Netflix. I don't think they're going to beat them necessarily, but I don't know if it matters. There probably is room for both. But I also agree with Steve that until you see this north of 120 in a meaningful way, you stay away. So for me, I wait until they report on May 4th.
You're making the comparison with Netflix.
Yeah.
What if you didn't make the comparison with Netflix? What if you just took a look at Disney's business, what it's valued at, and what its offerings are? I mean, because it doesn't have to beat Netflix for the stock to go higher.
Correct. No, absolutely. I do think there's possibly, if this Disney Plus service impresses, I do think the stock could easily pop 15% over the course of a few months thereafter. So there's certainly upside. I think the valuation's incredibly reasonable. But when I try to compare it to Netflix, I'm looking at Netflix's content, and what I see is addictive shows where people binge watch. I'm not seeing addictive binge watching kind of shows or content with Disney.
I just think that I look at Netflix and I think it's completely the opposite. I think Netflix has done a nice job of getting into content, but the whole Netflix story is that they've got subs, they've got international growth, and clearly Disney needs to get to that. But Disney's content, to me, is proven. And I would look at the core and say, look, it's $7 a share at 15 times, which I think is cheap for Disney. It's $110, $115 stock alone, without any of this. And this is all additive.
But we
So
haven't
to me,
seen,
I don't understand why this isn't an add-on.
The point I guess I'm coming from
don't have it because they haven't started yet.
Is that I hear you, and it's not going to be the parabolic growth because it's not a direct streaming play. It's not. You're getting too much noise in there. They make a ton of money in parks, ton of money in media, but you're not going to get that valuation.
If their content strategy was so great, why didn't they roll it out 2 years ago?
Because first of all, I'll tell you what, they didn't just do this overnight. They started this in 2017. They bought BAMTech. They've been slowly working on this strategy. This is a pivot. This is a counterpunch to FANG. And actually, if there's any legacy player out there in all the industries that have been disrupted, to me, Disney has the ability to go after and do this. They can do this through theme parks. They can do this through lodging. They can do this through all of their
infrastructure. But they're doing all of that now, and it has they're doing all of that now, and Disney is up 6 or 7% against Netflix, up multiples of that year to date. They've gotten a different multiple than Netflix will get, and they'll always get a different multiple than Netflix will get. If you want a growth play, if you want a streaming play, you got to go with Netflix. There's going to be a lot of noise around this, and it could be successful, but I think people are stuck into this trading range where Disney is going to be something that I buy for the kids if you have young kids. Netflix is something that the whole family uses.
I can tell you, I've got 2 young kids, and they would actually throw Netflix out and keep YouTube. I mean, I don't know that Netflix is that cutting edge for kids.
I think that's a good point. And that is all the other competition outside of Netflix and this new Disney streaming platform. I mean, Netflix in its last conference call mentioned what as a competition for their service? Fortnite.
Yeah.
Fortnite specifically. We're talking about a much broader universe in terms of percentage of time of your eyeballs. pulled in different directions. It's not just
no, that's
Netflix
fair. I
versus
mean,
Disney.
but again, Netflix does such a great job with the land grab over the last decade. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine them going away. And I don't think Steve is saying this, but I think Tim is alluding to this. There's probably room for both Disney and Netflix. I don't think anybody's. I'm not saying it's a zero-sum game. I think they both can probably go higher. For me, though, given where the market is, given, in my opinion, the potential for the market to have a bit of a sell-off, given the fact that Disney has peaked at these levels a number of times, I would rather wait until they report on May 4th.